Catholic pilgrims, as we learn from one of Spain's most revered saints, Saint Teresa of Avila, a spirited doctor of the Church. Join me, Amy Thomas, once a week as we read from Saint Teresa's book, The Interior Castle. Welcome back, Catholic pilgrims, to our fourth episode of the Interior Castle readings. Today, we venture into Chapter 2 of the First Mansion. At the beginning of Chapter 2, it says that it, quote, describes the hideous appearance of a soul in mortal sin as revealed by God to someone, offers a few remarks on self-knowledge, and this chapter is useful as it contains some points requiring attention. Also, explanation of the mansions. So as you can see, some pretty lightweight reading this week. I'm kidding, I'm just kidding. About a week ago, I was talking to a guy at church, and he was recommending a book to me. And the book was about how too many people stay stuck in a faith life that looks no different than what they experienced in Sunday school or CCD classes. Jesus is just a great guy, and there's Noah and rainbows and Jonah and the whale and the bad snake in the garden. But our faith life is meant to grow and mature, because without that maturity, we are ill-equipped to handle the realities of life and the spiritual warfare that we all are going to face at some point. So I say all this to encourage you. Saint Teresa is a doctor of the Church, which means that she has very deep, meaningful things to say that should challenge us. This book should be a challenge. We need to be challenged, because without challenge, there can be no growth. So I commend you, my fellow Catholics, in taking time to read this book and listen to this podcast. I assure you that Saint Teresa is going to help you grow in your faith life. So our readings today are from the First Mansion, Chapter 2, Numbers 1 through 3. Before we start, a word from our sponsor. Today's sponsor is Amazing Grace Pilgrimages. In January 2020, I had the privilege of going to the Holy Land with Lori from Amazing Grace Pilgrimages, and it forever changed my life, and my husband's too. There is rarely a day that goes by that I don't think of that pilgrimage and reflect on it in some way. This year, I'm going on pilgrimage again with Amazing Grace Pilgrimages. This time, it's to Italy. It's a 9-day pilgrimage from October 23rd through the 31st, 2023, and we are going to be seeing and experiencing some amazing things. We start in Rome, where we are going to visit the Vatican and have one of the best guides out there, Father Michael Bagot. We will visit numerous churches in Rome. We will have Sunday Mass in Rome, and we will go to a Wednesday papal audience. We will spend one day visiting Nettuno, where the shrine to my patron saint, Saint Maria Goretti, is located. And then from Rome, it is on to Assisi to spend time where St. Francis and St. Clare walked. This is a special 20-person pilgrimage, which is pretty unheard of, but I wanted a more intimate pilgrimage to get to know my fellow pilgrims better. So if you are interested, please follow the link in the show notes, and be sure to follow Amazing Grace Pilgrimages on Instagram and Facebook for more information. So now, crack open your books to Chapter 2 of the First Mansion, Numbers 1 through 3. Before going farther, I wish you to consider the state to which mortal sin brings this magnificent and beautiful castle, this pearl of the East, this tree of life planted beside the living waters of life, which symbolize God Himself. No night can be so dark, no gloom nor blackness can compare to its obscurity. Suffice it to say that the sun in the center of the soul, which gave it such splendor and beauty, is totally eclipsed, though the spirit is as fitted to enjoy God's presence as is the crystal to reflect the sun. While the soul is in mortal sin, nothing can profit it. None of its good works merit an eternal reward, since they do not proceed from God as their first principle, and by Him alone is our virtue real virtue. The soul separated from Him is no longer pleasing in His eyes, because by committing a mortal sin, instead of seeking to please God, it prefers to gratify the devil, the prince of darkness, and so comes to share his blackness. I knew a person to whom our Lord revealed the result of a mortal sin, and who said she thought no one who realized its effects could ever commit it, but would suffer unimaginable torments to avoid it. This vision made her very desirous for all to grasp this truth. Therefore, I beg you, my daughters, to pray fervently to God for sinners who live in blindness and do deeds of darkness. In a state of grace, the soul is like a well of limpid water from which flow only streams of clearest crystal. Its works are pleasing both to God and man, rising from the river of life, beside which it is rooted like a tree. Otherwise, it would produce neither leaves nor fruit, for the waters of grace nourish it, keep it from withering from drought, and cause it to bring forth good fruit. But the soul, by sinning, withdraws from the stream of life, and growing beside a black and fetid pool, can produce nothing but disgusting and unwholesome fruit. Notice that it is not the fountain and the brilliant sun which lose their splendor and beauty, for they are placed in the very center of the soul and cannot be deprived of their luster. The soul is like a crystal in the sunshine over which a thick black cloth has been thrown, so that however brightly the sun may shine, the crystal can never reflect it. As many of you know, I grew up Protestant, and in all my time as a Protestant, there was no distinction made between sins. There was no mortal or venial sins. All sins were the same. And we weren't really encouraged to think too much about them because, well, Jesus covered them with his blood. That was the idea. But we know that's not true because even people who believe this don't practice it in life. They don't think that a child who steals a pack of gum is committing a sin on the same level as a murderer. We don't punish them the same, and it would be horribly unjust to do so. It would be horribly unjust to punish a child who steals a pack of gum like we punish somebody who commits murder. But if you flip that around, it would still be horribly unjust. It would be horribly unjust to punish a murderer like we punish a child who steals a pack of gum. It just wouldn't fit the crime, right? And so we cannot be more just than God here on earth. And so we know that God does not punish all sins the same. Now, when it comes to mortal sins, I don't know if many of us give it much thought because, one, we think we never commit sin that bad. I'm not a murderer, we say. And two, we don't like to think about hell. But we see here in our readings today that mortal sin is described as eclipsing the sun which is at the center of our soul. Remember, St. Teresa has described the soul as a diamond, transparent, and when grace and God are in our soul, it shines, and that light can shine out, extending beyond our soul. And we've all seen that in people who have a lot of grace in their soul and have God in their soul. We see it in the saints' faces. Mortal sin, however, snuffs out that light, and then the soul goes dark. And she says, no night can be so dark, no gloom nor blackness can compare to its obscurity. Now, I know some people right now whose souls are in mortal sin. I know it because they have willfully and knowingly turned their back on God. Now, obviously, only God can judge a soul to its eternal destination, but from what I know of them and their actions and their beliefs, I am scared for them. I am truly scared for them. Because I also know that they think that their good deeds that they do will make up for their mortal sins. But St. Teresa tells us today, While the soul is in mortal sin, nothing can profit it. None of its good works merit an eternal reward, since they do not proceed from God as their first principle. And this is what the church teaches. Like, anything you do, if you have mortal sin on your soul, anything good that you do, because, usually people don't walk around doing something horrible and wicked every second of the day. But if you have mortal sin on your soul and you do good works, you do something good, it profits you nothing. And so we can't simply think, oh, it's okay if I miss Mass because I gave money this week to the hurricane victims. Or, it's okay if I look at this pornography because I still go to Mass on Sunday. No, we cannot think that way. So I'm gluten intolerant, and I've been this way for 11 years now. And throughout these 11 years, I've had numerous people try to get me to eat gluten. And, they say things like, a little couldn't hurt, right? Or I've actually had somebody say, maybe it's all in your head. But see, I don't want to eat gluten because I know how it makes me feel. No donut is worth how terrible I feel. Yet these people are trying to tempt me because they don't have to feel what I feel. St. Teresa tells us that if we realized the effects mortal sin has on us when we commit it, we would suffer unimaginable torments to avoid mortal sin. Like, if we really knew the results, if we really knew the consequences of hell, we would avoid it at all costs. Not all of us are given to realize the effects mortal sin can have on a soul, but many saints have been given insight into the torments of hell, and they share it with the rest of us for good reason, as a warning. In our readings with St. Faustina's diary in season 1, we were explicitly told how horrific of a place it is, and she is constantly warning that, this is not a place you want to go. You need to be looking out for your soul. Now, I know this is all stuff that makes us uncomfortable, and you might be saying, Amy, talk about something enlightening, but we do have to talk about these things. We have to. We cannot ignore them, because when we ignore them, these exact things happen. Our souls go dark. And so instead, we must talk about them, but also we must be like a rooted tree beside the river of life, soaking up grace so that our souls continue to shine. And as Catholics, we know how to achieve this. Confession, Holy Eucharist, and practicing self-discipline and sacrifices. Those are the keys to keeping our souls shining with light. So we will stop here for today, Catholic pilgrims. As you picture the soul, picture it shining and full of radiance, but also contrast that with a soul that we don't want, one that has lights out. I will see you back here soon, and until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.